Hello and welcome to Mind, Body, Sleep, the podcast for anyone out there who wants to understand and recover from insomnia using a holistic perspective. I'm Beth Kendall, your host. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to episode 2. I am still getting my podcasting sea legs. For the most part, I've shared my content and education primarily through writing or video in my program, but podcasting has its own personality, so I am still growing into it. But today, I am excited to be diving into this topic of sleep envy. And chances are, if you hit play on this particular podcast, then you already have an inkling as to what these two little words mean just through lived experience. But for anyone out there who maybe isn't sure, let me provide a bit of context around what I'm going to be talking about today. Sleep envy is something that occurs when we start to unconsciously compare our sleep with other people. And it doesn't even have to be just people. It can be pets or animals. And it doesn't have to be just in person. It can happen when you're watching someone sleeping on a movie screen or looking at a picture. I remember when I was going through it that I would watch my cats sleeping just so incredibly effortlessly. And I would study that and hope that just by studying them, it would somehow rub off on me, that my brain would somehow pick up on that. And, there were probably hundreds of times during my flight attendant career that I would look around the cabin at the sea of passengers just sitting there, sleeping straight up in their seats, and be so genuinely perplexed by how they could do that. Like it seemed completely foreign to me. I was talking about this with my mentorship community earlier this week, and many of the members could really relate to this experience and how you start noticing everyone else's ability to sleep, whether it's your partner or your kids or even your own previous ability to sleep. And there are so many emotions that can come with this. A lot of times, sleep envy will express in the form of anger. And I think this stems from a sense that this basic biological function that others can enjoy so painlessly has been lost. And maybe there's some unfairness or feelings of injustice about that. And sometimes that then can turn into some resentment towards the people that we really care about. And that can be a little confusing. It's almost like seeing someone else sleep reminds you that you're not sleeping. And you're not really mad at the person directly, but seeing them sleep so easily creates some anxiety about your own situation. So it's a very real phenomena, and some of the underlying questions that I see driving the comparison are usually things like, why can't I sleep like that? What is wrong with me that I can't do this very simple thing that everyone else can enjoy? Why do I have to worry about this when they don't have to think about it at all? Now, I think a lot of times sleep envy or anger reflects a much deeper emotion of grief, or maybe a sense of loss or longing. Likely there's some sadness coming to the surface for the perceived loss of your own ability to sleep and all of the things that are associated with that. And then there are all of the emotions about feeling these particular emotions, right? The stories we tell ourselves about feeling envy. And this really threw me because envy wasn't a super familiar emotion for me. Like someone could have all the things in the world that we might traditionally covet, money, status, things. And I felt zero envy around any of those things. But with sleep, it was somehow different. I really did feel a sense of loss or separation, that I couldn't be a part of the world in this way. So, how can we address sleep envy? How can we work with it in a way that it moves through our experience? Here are 3 things to keep in mind when you notice sleep envy coming into your recovery. The first one is to just acknowledge the emotion and give yourself permission to have it. You did nothing wrong to cause insomnia. It could happen to anyone, and anyone would feel these emotions if they were going through insomnia. So letting go of any of the pressure or judgment you might be putting on yourself not to feel these emotions, because they really are very human and have nothing to do with who you are as a human being. Number 2, apply loads of self-compassion. I mean, you guys cannot overdo this. And I plan to talk a lot more about self-compassion in future episodes, but there is an aspect of you that has been through something difficult enough to create these emotions in your life. So be gentle with that part of you. Know that there is likely some grief driving the process. So tend to that grief with kindness. Give yourself whatever you might need. Talk to a friend, have a good cry, give someone a hug, get your favorite Starbucks, whatever it takes. Just give that grief freedom to be there in the space of compassion. And lastly, number 3, understand where the emotion is coming from. Sleep envy is generally based on a belief or a set of beliefs that something has been lost. We begin to think that our own capacity to sleep has been broken or damaged. So we start moving through the world believing that other people have some sort of magical skill or mechanism that allows them to sleep that we no longer have. But this isn't true. Other people just haven't gone through insomnia. They haven't developed a fear of not sleeping. They're just not thinking about sleep much at all. So if you're feeling some sleep envy, know that it's a completely normal part of the process. Be kind to that part of you and recognize that there could be some grief or loss underneath the feeling of envy. And remember, everything you need to sleep is still inside of you, and that can never change. This is Beth Kendall, and you've been listening to the Mind, Body, Sleep podcast. I'll see you next week. Thanks for being here today. If you love what you heard on today's episode, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the podcast. And if you need more support with your sleep, join me in the Mind, Body, Sleep Mentorship. This 3-month one-on-one program will transform your relationship with sleep so you can get back to living the life that you love, free from the fear of not sleeping. Head on over to bethkendall.com for more details. I'll see you next time.